Welcome to the Northern Talent Cup for the 5th round of 7 in this 2022 season, featuring some of the brightest up-and-coming talent across Central and Northern Europe. 25 riders are ready to go here in the Czech Republic, arriving here off the back of one of the most thrilling races we've witnessed so far in this 2022 campaign, a titanic battle at the Cathedral of Speed, Assen, last June. After 14 laps of back and forth, up to a dozen different rides were in for a shout for the podium positions going into the final lap before Dustin Schneider, the young rider from Saxony, capitalised on a small mistake by championship leader Rossi Moore to take his first win in the series and throw his name into the ring for a title fight, which is looking a lot more open than it had previously. Can the number 92 bounce back? Or will we see his 31-point lead diminished further by the likes of Schneider, Kevin Vargas or Tibor Vargas? We're about to find out at the Autodrom Most in Race 1 of the Northern Talent Cup. Hello, you are joining us live trackside from a somewhat gloomy-looking Autodrom Most. It was sunny for the first time all day a few minutes ago, but the heavens seem to have opened up somewhat again. It's been mixed conditions all throughout the day here, spitting rain on and off. We've had 5 races already across 4 different classes. We've seen how well the track holds up in sort of mixed conditions. And now it's time to see how the Northern Talent Cup riders step up to the challenge. Anthony Nelson, Steve English here to take you through this first race of the NTC in Northern Czech Circuit of Most. And Steve, unlike the weather, so far today these riders have been feeling far from gloomy, arriving here after a month's break. It's a month of growing anticipation for this race. Yeah, they're all back in action in the NTC. 14 laps here of the Most circuit today and then another race tomorrow. So it's a busy section of the year for these NTC riders. A lot of them doubling up in other championships as well. We're already heading through our grid. We've seen our pole sitter, Maximus Schmid. He will actually be facing a ride-through penalty throughout this race for testing infringement. He was testing here at Most in the last week, which is, of course, forbidden. So he will be interested in watching race 2. But right now, we've seen Jurien van Kruchten. He's been on the front row now for the last 2 races. A good contender to step on the podium today. Yeah, keep an eye on the number 36. He's in the Bo Ben Schneider squad. So bad boy Bo looking after him and bringing him through the ranks. Second front row of the year for this man, Valentino Herrlich. He was the fastest in both FP1 and FP2 by over 0.4 of a second, actually. So someone to consider for this race. And he has shown much improved pace since returning from injury at the Sachsenring. Yeah, for Herrlich, this is a big opportunity for him. Starting on the front row of the grid gives him a real chance of being able to come away with some strong results this weekend. We have 2 local riders on our grid today. They're both from around the Brno circuit. We're at 3 hours drive north from that circuit here in Most. This one, Filip Novotny, is his best qualifying position in this Northern Talent Cup. In fact, his previous best was 14th. So it'll be very interesting to see what he can do on a track that he knows well. Yeah, 14 years of age as well, and a chance here in front of a home crowd to show something a bit special. We've got an Italian 46 on the grid. It is Matteo Massili. He makes it 3 rookies inside the top 5 on this race 1 grid. And he has been quite a consistent qualifier, finding his way onto the second row of the grid in 3 of the 5 events so far. Yeah, the young Sardinian teammate to the next man, we'll see, the championship leader Rossi Moore, and they really do form a very potent partnership. Well, this is the man we've got to keep an eye on. Rossi Moore, a championship leader. He's been near perfect all season long. We just saw in the highlights package at the opening of this program that little mistake that he made in Assen. He wasn't too happy about it, but he still has a pretty comfortable lead. He does start from 6th on the grid, his worst qualifying position so far. Yeah, the Samurai with 4 wins this season. He's been dominant in the Northern Talent Cup. Fifth at the stand is Martin Vince, tied on point with Loris Veneman. He is the youngest rider on the grid, however. He is not a rookie, he has experience coming in here from last season. And he did take his first podium of the campaign at Assen. Yeah, the 12-year-old, he's raced in the Czech Championships as well, so knows his way around the Czech Republic and knows this Most circuit as well. Now this man knows what it is to win a race this season. Dustin Schneider, the winner in race to Assen. He's one of the veterans on the grid, let's say, staying in this Northern Talent Cup since 2020. His first win came in Assen, his third in the championship, and perhaps a dark horse to cut some points away from our championship leader.
Yeah, the winner last time out as well, race 2 in Assen, so comes here with a lot of confidence.
Now here's his man, second in the championship, Kevin Farkas. He did cut a few points away from Rossi Moore. Perhaps not the result he wanted in the last race at Assen, but he'll be hoping to do more today from the back of the third row.
Kevin's got a lot of experience as well. He's finished 4th in the championship last year, but he is one of the bigger riders in the Northern Talent Cup, and that's obviously something that as you get a little bit older can happen when you're up against some riders that are about 3 years younger than him, but that can be something that becomes a factor for him, so expect to see him make the move on to a different type of bike after this season.
Moving on to the fourth row of the grid, this is Rocco Sessa, 10th on the grid and 10th in the standings. He's been a consistent rider down the lower end of the top 10, making progress throughout his rookie season.
Yeah, a rider that has been spending time in the Yamaha R3 Cup as well, and so he knows his way around the world SBK paddock.
So we look forward to our start of the race here, this Northern Talent Cup race 1. Further down the grid, we've got Venom in 11th, Thibaut Varga in 12th, and keep an eye out from Lennox Formara at the end of the 5th row of the grid, a rider who's proven to be very good in these sort of mixed conditions. But we build up now to the start of this race 1 of the Northern Talent Cup with Maximus Schmid in pole position. So here's a look at our starting grid here for race 1. It's Schmidt on pole position. Remember, though, he has a ride-through penalty, which will open the door to the likes of Van Kruchten and Herrlich on the first row of the grid to fight for the win here. We've got Philip Novotny, Massely, and our championship leader, Rossi Moore, second row of the grid. Then it's Vincent, Schneider, Farkas, row 3, Sessler, Veneman, and Varga on row 4. The Belgian duo of Kernan and Kernan and Sidorov with Formara on row 5. That's followed by Kuipers, Deckers, and Holzer row 6, Frelsen, Göttlicher, Prokis row 7. We've got Greven, Lorenz, and the other Formara brother on row 8, with Olofsen closing out a 25 rider grid. We're missing here Pilipenko, the Ukrainian rider, through injury. So, of course, we wish for him to have a prompt recovery and return to action later on this season. So far, it's 25 riders ready here to get going at the Northern Talent Cup, the Abderdome Most.
25 riders on the grid, and like all major races that we see for bikes, 25 points on offer for the race winner, points all the way down to 15th for a solitary points paying position. We've got Rossi Moore, our championship leader, number 92. Keep an eye out for him. He's on a red and white bike, and coming from the second row of the grid, he'll be out to add to his 4 wins so far this season.
Now, we said at the opening of this programme, we'd seen some spots of rain. It was looking a bit gloomy here at the Autodrome Most. We haven't had any indication of drops of rain from race direction so far, so it's looking like a dry one at the moment. But keep an eye out in these opening laps, because the track may still be slightly damp, and we might see riders being a bit more tentative in these opening stages.
Yeah, 14-lap race, so there is the opportunity that the weather conditions could change throughout the course of this. But 14 laps, everyone out there on identical machinery. They're all KTMs in the Northern Talent Cup. This is into the second half of the season as well, so from this point onwards, Most in support of World Superbikes, and then the next 2 rounds are going to be Assen in a few weeks' time in support of the IDM Championship, and then the final round of the year at the Red Bull Ring, also supporting the IDM Championship. So these riders get the opportunity to really show their wares in front of a lot of high-profile teams and personnel. They've been supporting the MotoGP calendar throughout the course of this season as well. The opening round of the year at Le Mans in support of the French Grand Prix, and also at the Dutch TT in June as well. We spot some rain out there that looks like on that camera lens, so something that we're certainly going to have to keep an eye on all the way through this race.
Well, it's what we've experienced all day here at the Autodrome Most with the other World Superbike classes here. We've had rain, sometimes it's been stopping, it's been starting, it's been stopping. The race has been absolutely fantastic today, because you have that big question question mark hanging over you for the entire duration of the race.
Yeah, and it is one of those things that for all of these riders, they'll try and keep themselves as calm as possible now in the lead up to the race. You want to make sure that you're able to make a fast start, but they've also seen some of the World Championship riders come a cropper into turn one as well. They'll know that it's a really tough circuit here into turn one. It's a very slow first corner, but even worse than that, it's slower into turn two. Those two corners lead one into the other. It's very easy for an incident to happen into the right-left sequence.
See the riders arrive to the grid. A few riders still arriving at the back. Our championship stands, you can see it's a 31-point advantage for Moore at the top. And he'll be hoping to increase that after race one. So it's Schmidt, Van Kruchten, Herlich, our front row of the grid. We've got a green flag at the back. We'll be waiting for the light to come on. Race one of the Northern Talent Cup is underway. It's been a good start from our pole sit to Schmidt. A bit of a poor start from the middle of the front row from Van Kruchten. We've got our riders coming into turn one. As Steve said just now, it's a very, very tight corner, so watch out for all of these riders. We've got a couple of riders going around the outside. That's number 7 trying to make some advantage. It is Schmidt coming in through the first corner. All the riders come through cleanly through rows, through turns 1 and 2. So right now we've got Schmidt, we've got Massely, and number 29, Novotny, a Czech rider, moving up 1 position into 3rd as we come through our first sector of the race.
Yeah, really good start from the second row of the grid for Massely from 5th on the grid. He's up into 2nd spot. But our championship leader, Rossi Moore, didn't make progress in the first couple of corners. That looks like it might be Massely that's gone down.
I think that is Massely that's gone down. Oh, the Italian number 46 coming down, teammate to Rossi Moore, just around one of those corners, the right hand, in our second sector. So a shame there for the number 46. He's been so consistent in the last few rounds. So we've got Schmidt, we've got Novotny moving up into 2nd, and Van Kruchten, the Dutch rider, in 3rd position. They're all lifting their hands, so it seems that the track is starting to get a bit wetter here, and we do have a red flag here with Northern Talent Cup regulations. It is an immediate red flag the moment that we have wet conditions if it was declared dry at the start. So these riders will move back into pit lane right now, and we'll see when we can offer an update regarding that, but hoping to see if Massely can return, because that was a big crash there coming through one of the right-handers, turn 8.
Yeah, hopefully for Massely he's okay after that, and hopefully he's able to just, well, it looks like he's struggling to get back on his feet. I was going to say that if he's able to get that bike back running again, might be able to get back to the pits, but that's not an option for him. So unfortunately for Massely, from the second row of the grid, he made a fast start, got himself up into 2nd position, and then has that big crash. He was clearly willing to put it all on the line in that opening lap to try and hit the front, but that's a bit of bad luck for the number 46 and the young Italian. He's going to have to just wait until the next round, until tomorrow, to be able to show what he can do here in Most.
Shame for Massely. He turned 14 just this week, actually, here at the Autodrome Most. It will be his 2nd DNF of the campaign. We'll confirm that later on. Hopefully we can confirm a medical update as soon as we can for the young Italian rider. Meanwhile, all the riders move back into pit lane, and well, it's been a very clean start through turns 1 and 2, as we saw, which is what we wanted to see here in the Northern Talent Cup, especially given the conditions. We haven't had much experience this year in wet conditions, but it does change the whole complexion of the race. Yeah,
there's a few riders always will stand out in wet conditions, so we'll actually be looking a little bit further down the field for some of those guys, and that gives them a real opportunity to spring a surprise and have best results this season. We are going to go back to an original grid for this one as well, so a few riders to keep an eye on in the wet conditions. Veneman on the number 77 is good in those conditions, and speaking to some of the rider coaches for the NTC, they've obviously earmarked out the kind of riders you'd expect. Rossi Moore in the 92 and Farkas as well on the 28 as 2 of the riders to keep an eye on in the damp conditions. But for everyone now, it's a case of just trying to find out when we'll be able to get this race restarted.
It'll be interesting to see what sort of a track we do if it do have for the restart. If the track is as wet as it may seem to declare the race a wet race, or if it does dry out quite quickly, because what we have seen here today is that conditions can change very promptly here at the Autodrome Most.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem to be where there's too much spots of rain there. Just looking outside the commentary box, we haven't seen too much here in our box, so maybe that red flag also just related, as you can see, to the bottom, just to the crash and trying to clean that operation up. But hopefully were able to get back underway nice and quickly with Massily able to get himself the attention that he needs.
Just saw Kevin Farkas second in the championship. He was starting from 9th on the grid here, Farkas, and this is a good opportunity in these sort of conditions to be able to cut back some points from our championship leader, Rossi Moore, because we've seen the two of them go toe-to-toe in several races this season. They've known themselves for years and years, but that relationship, we see maybe a bit more tense after a couple of the incidents that we've had this year with them coming together in the final laps. We've had a couple of track limits penalties throughout the season. So both of them really looking to prove a point coming to this Moss round. As we said, we've had over a month-long break, a lot of time to mull things over and really get prepared for this final third of the season. So we'll try and give an update as soon as we can for the restart. But at the moment, we are under red flag conditions here with the change in weather conditions at the Aberdeen Most, as we have had all day across 5 races here. We've had World Superbike, World Supersport, World Supersport 300, Yamaha R3 European Cup. We've had a lot of exciting races here in these sort of mixed conditions. It's something that we hope to see later on when we can get an update on our schedule here for the restart.
Yeah, and at least that looks like we've now got Massily getting the attention he needs, and hopefully that'll mean that we're able to get restarted as soon as possible. We saw a quick shot there of Dustin Schneider down in the pit box as well, and Schneider, winner last time out in Assen, and he's got a lot of confidence coming into this weekend, but from the third row of the grid, he'll be looking to make a fast start, so keep an eye on the number 20, see if he's able to put some pressure on the likes of Farkas and Moore, who are in front of him in the championship standings.
You see all the riders grouped together here, trying to get an update on I imagine, on Massily's state. We saw the ambulance leaving the track, so hopefully we can provide an update to all our viewers here just to make sure that the Italian rider is okay, and hopefully we can provide an update as soon as possible about our restart here. So we're catching a few of our riders here on the grid, and
just you can see there in this shot the differences between some of these riders as well. You got 12-year-olds up against 15, 16-year-olds as well. And Rio Alfason was the rider we saw there, really tall compared to some of his rivals. And that's just one of those things as you have older riders against younger riders, but it does put the taller and heavier riders at a big disadvantage. But it is a class where all the bikes are the same, and it's up to you to make the most you can from it, gain your experience, and then try and move on to the next stage of your career. And they've got a lot of riders they can look up to for what they've been able to achieve already, such as the likes of Sumagorba, the original Northern Talent Cup winner back in 2020. He's racing now in the Red Bull Rookies Cup and the Junior GP, where he scored some points this year, and that certainly gives these riders something to aim for in the future.
And we saw this year, Lawrence Luciano, last year's runner-up, move up into the Red Bull Rookies, and he's been quite a consistent front-runner out there for the time being. Perhaps the rider with the most potential that we've seen move up there. His results have been pretty fantastic, and a lot of teams, you can imagine, well, obviously the Red Bull Rookies Cup, a closed category with all the riders riding the same spec machinery. But even in the Junior GP Championship, you can imagine they'll be keeping an eye on a few of these riders, because for some of them, it'll be 1, 2, 3 years' time where we'll see them battling out there and coming onto the world stage. Yeah,
exactly, and that's the whole point of the Talent Cups. And I think one of the interesting ones that you can use as a comparison for it is the British Talent Cup, where riders in the first season did struggle, and from that point on, they were able to really develop into something a lot more, and much stronger performances and much more depth in the field, and that does make a big difference.
So we do now have a time confirmed for our restart here. The pit lane will be opening in 4 minutes' time. Our riders then will be able to take one sighting lap around the track. They'll reach the grid, make sure everything's in check, have a warm-up lap, and then get the race restarted. This will be a 9-lap race now, so much shorter distance than what we had beforehand. So all these riders now huddled together, getting that information here from our Northern Talent Cup race direction and our crew, and just making sure that they all know what to expect in the upcoming minutes.
Yeah, they know that this will be where you've got the quick restart procedure, where you do a sighting lap to the grid, and then you're straight into a formation lap to get yourself ready for the race, and then you're into a 9-lap race. So a slightly shorter race duration, which typically means for even more frantic action in a Talent Cup. But in this Northern Talent Cup field, they'll know that it's all about trying to make sure that you're able to keep yourself in the battle. And I think Massili's crash is going to give them a pretty big reminder of that it's very easy to lose the race in the first couple of laps. So you got to just make sure that you're able to keep yourself upright.
Well, we said in the opening of the programme, they've had a month here to wait for this race. It's been growing anticipation. These are young riders. They want to be racing as much as possible right now. They come to a new circuit. We had a full dry weather day yesterday with 2 free practice and Super Bowl, so they know what to expect. They just want to get now onto the grid and learning out there, which is the important thing right now for them really to be able to grow as riders, because results, of course, are very important for one's self-motivation, but right now it is about making that talent flourish and really come to the fore.
You can see Laszlo Laric down there in pit lane, just getting himself ready. 2.5 minutes until the pit lane will open. Laszlo, 17 years of age, second oldest rider in this field. And I think that gives you the stark contrast to some of the younger riders, like we saw some 12-year-olds out here, and very different stages of their physical development, but in terms of their racing development, all of them at that same point.
Well, we said some of these riders, for example, Martin Vinsart, youngest rider on the grid, one of the 12-year-olds, turning 13 this year. We're actually seeing him right now on our screen. You know, even with that, with them being younger riders, it's something to watch in terms of the talent, particularly because Martin Vinsart coming in. He's not a rookie, actually. He did race last year, but to be fighting for podiums at that sort of age, we can expect them to be with that age in the Northern Talent Cup. Perhaps the next season or next couple of seasons, given the age limits in other championships. But it's something really to appreciate how fast some of these riders can be at such a young age.
Yeah, Martin had a podium last time out at Assen in race 2 and 5th in the championship standings. He's shown that as long as you've got the speed, you'll be able to get that experience at the front of the field here. And that's what the teams further up the paddock look whenever it's in the Supersport 300 class, or when you're supporting the Moto 3 and the MotoGP World Championship. The Moto 3 team managers might be looking at you as someone to keep an eye on for a European Talent Cup spot or a Junior GP slot down the line as well. So that becomes really important for all these riders. This is a chance for them to show what they're all about.
Just saw one of our 2 local riders here, Mikhail Prokash here, the number 16 Czech rider. Of course, we've got Filip Novotny 4th on the grid, so something to look forward to for our fans here who have turned out for this Northern Talent Cup event, who've stayed along after a very long day of racing here. We'll have a second race tomorrow in the afternoon as well, so expect a lot of excitement around this one. We're still going through the grid. Here is Loris Dekkers, one of 2 Belgian riders on the grid, 22nd in a championship, and a rider who will be hoping to make a step forward and keep himself in the points positions and grow as a rider here.
I remember talking to some of the people behind the Asia Talent Cup about the prospects for a lot of these riders, and at the time it was Alberto Puig was the chief talent spotter for the Talent Cups, and one of the things that was mentioned a lot by the team behind finding and selecting the riders was when they come into a Talent Cup, year 1 is all about learning it, year 2 is about actually being able to hit the front, and year 3 is about trying to win championships. And I think whenever you look at the Northern Talent Cup, there's a lot to be said for that as well. This is obviously the 3rd year of the Northern Talent Cup, and now you start to see more and more riders develop. I think the Asia Talent Cup is a good comparison to make, because if you think back to the early days of the Asia Talent Cup, and I think it was 2015 it started, you only had 1 or 2 riders that were really standout riders. Then the next year there was 2 or 3 riders, then 4 or 5, and then suddenly it was quite a few riders that have come through the ATC to really develop into stars, and they've turned out to be Grand Prix winners, championship contenders, and some of the best young riders coming through in the Grand Prix world. And that's what the aim is for the Northern Talent Cup as well, to give some of these riders the opportunity. It's a good stepping stone. You could easily move from the Northern Talent Cup to the European Talent Cup to the Junior GP class, and then into the World Championship as well. And I think that's the big thing in the road to MotoGP, is that you're able to progress steadily from class to class.
I mentioned that 3-step progress through championships. We are in the 3rd season of the Northern Talent Cup. We have some riders who have been here since day 1. Perhaps the best example of that is Dustin Schneider, our race winner last time at Assen. Dustin Schneider making progress every single year. We saw him be 11th his first year, did make a small step back in his second year, 16th in the standings, but a couple of inconsistent moments then. But really taking a step forward this year with that win, fighting for the podium nearly every weekend. And even if it is a fairly big gap to close with our championship leader, it's 45 points with Rossi Moore for him right now. just to be in that sort of contention and showing that sort of progress is what will catch a lot of eyes around the paddock and around the motorcycling world, because we see this Northern Talent Cup. It's not just obviously World Superbike. It's the first time we have Northern Talent Cup alongside the World Superbike paddock, but in MotoGP paddock, in the IDM paddock, some of the national champions as well, they'll be looking for riders to progress up their series and gain that sort of experience. A lot of competitive championships out there where they can hone their skills.
Yeah, and that's what you want to see. You want to see riders honing their skills, improving, and using this experience to really make them better. And I think that's the key thing in any of these Talent Cups. You've got a lot of experience that you're able to rely on, whether it comes from the form of the team around you, the rider coaches, the development team, or indeed whenever you're in a paddock like this, there's always a chance where you're going to end up involved with some of the World Superbike riders or Grand Prix riders whenever you're in the MotoGP paddock, and you're able to learn from them, and that really is important.
So we see our riders just arrive into the grid after that sighting lap. They will stop now and have around about a minute just to check that everything is all right on their bikes before they head for another warm-up lap around the track, and we'll get racing again here at the Autodrome Most. So a quick run through our starting grid again here at the Autodrome Most. It is Schmidt on pole position. He has that ride through to penalty still to serve. A reminder for that, we've got Van Krugten, Herrlich on the front row of the grid, followed by Novotny, Massily, who has been taken to the medical centre recently, so we'll try and get an update on his condition as soon as we can, but he won't be here for this restart. That means that Moore will be 6th on the grid, but it will be literal 5th. And we're seeing the rest of the back of our starting grid here because the riders are already coming out for our warm-up lap. It's been a quick restart for them, and we are ready to get racing again here at the Autodrome Most.
Yeah, shame for Matteo Massily, out of action after that crash that brought out the red flag. He just turned 14 only a couple of days ago, so not the birthday he was looking for, but hopefully he's able to get back in action tomorrow and show what he's able to do. For the rest of the riders now, it's another opportunity to have a lap to the grid and get everything up to speed, brakes, tyres, and probably the most important thing, get your racing brain ready as well, because when we kick-start this race in a couple of minutes' time, it's going to be a 9-lapper, and that means that there's no room for error. You've got to make a good start. You've got to get to the front as quickly as possible, and you've got to try and stay there as well. Always a challenge in a class like this. The Talent Cup bikes, all identical, which means slipstream becomes really important for setting your lap time and how you're able to race.
So we see the weather conditions here at the track fairly stable at the moment. It is a dry track out there, so the race has been declared dry for this restart, so it'll be important to see if it remains that way for the rest of our session here. For now, it'll be better for the riders right now because the experience that they have on this track from yesterday was in a dry conditions, FP1, FP2 and the qualifying all there. A couple of riders to keep an eye out for when we have that restart. Valentino Herrlich from the first row of the grid, 3rd position. He was the fastest rider in FP1 and FP2, and he is one rider who will be looking to make that step forward today. With Schmidt serving that penalty, he will be one to really be looking to seize that opportunity, because we've got a lot of riders here. You can win races in Northern Talent Cup in similar categories from further back on the grid, but you will have that small advantage going into turn 1. Yeah, and
having that advantage is all that it takes to make sure that you're able to hopefully stay out of the way of the trouble on the opening lap. That's one of the key things in any of these races. Like we said on the initial start, the right-left sequence into turn 1 and turn 2 really is a big challenge for all these riders, and they've got to make sure that they're able to stay out of trouble, and then just make sure you're able to stay at the front of the field. And for Schmidt, number 95 on pole position, that's going to be really important.
Quick reminder of our riders at the top of the standings. It's Moore on championship leader, 2nd row of the grid. Farkas and Schneider 2nd and 3rd on the 3rd row. We're ready for this restart. We've had one. Wait for the light to go out. The green flag is out at the back. The lights are on. And the lights are off. We have our restart for this Northern Talent Cup race at the Autodrome Most. Again, it's been a good start from our pole sitter, Maximus Schmid. They all approached turn 1. We had a clean get through the turn 1 and 2, some of the most unique and tightest corners on this calendar. We added Van Krugten, who jumps down the inside going into turn 1. He'll be our leader going through the first sector. And it is Van Krugten, and I think Rossi Moore actually had a good start. He seemed to be that he was in 3rd position, now our championship leader, and he is a number 92 on the back of Maximus Schmid, and looking to gain an early advantage here.
Another rider that made a good start was Veneman on the 77. He was very much moving around one space to the other on that opening lap to try and find some room into turn 1 and turn 2. He's inside the top 10. Keep an eye out for the 77.
We've also had a good start from Rocco Sessa, moving up to 6th position here as he approaches slow turn 10, the right-hander. From here onwards, it is very much full throttle for a lot of these riders until we get to turn 20 and turn 21, our final 2 corners of the track. But right now, it is Van Krugten leading the race, followed by Schmidt. Schmidt has actually just moved ahead of Van Krugten, as I said, that our pole sitter, although he has that ride-through penalty. So interesting to see how aggressive he is in these instances, because he will get more or less around about 30 seconds delay to his time. So interesting to see how long he takes until he actually serves the penalty.
Yeah, 25 seconds was the time that we saw lost for riders in the Super Sport class that had to take a ride-through penalty. So for Schmidt, once he takes that penalty, he's going to drop all the way down the order, and he'll struggle to score points. So it's up to him now in these early laps just to show that he's able to battle here and learn as much as possible against these guys, because he's going to be in the thick of it in tomorrow's race.
Approach turn 20, our penultimate corner, and one of the biggest overtaken hotspots at this Autodrom Most. For the first time, all the riders come through safely. Perhaps a bit of a tentative opening lap here. It is going to be a 9-lap race, so it's a shortened distance, so you need to make progress as soon as you possibly can. It's a long start-finish straight here at the Autodrom Most. We approach turn 1. It'll be the first time that they come here full throttle, and Rossi Moore has moved into the lead, our championship leader, taking an early lead here and looking to open a gap here at the Autodrom Most.
Yeah, Rossi Moore on that 92 hits the front. He's won 4 times already this season out of 8 races, and he wants to try and make sure he's able to add to that tally, stretch out his lead. He came into this one 26 points clear at the top of the standings.
It's more Van Krugten, Novotny. He's just dropped down. He was in our timings. He was third as we crossed the finish line. He's moved down to 5th. The Czech rider making huge progress compared to his races earlier on this season. As we come around turn 10, the slow right-hander once again, and Moore is trying to open a gap. It's very difficult in this class to be able to open an advantage over your pursuers. You've got that slipstream that the riders will have across the start-finish straight. So very difficult, but in this twisty, tight section of the track is where he can really make his advantage.
Yeah, did Rossi Moore a disservice. A 31-point lead in this top of the standings. You can see on the 92 trying to stretch out as much of a lead as possible, but it's difficult. It's very difficult to break away from the slipstream in these classes of bikes. The Talent Cup's always identical machinery, which means that the groups tend to stay together. So you have Rossi Moore in the 92, Herlich on the number 10 machine, and then the 36 of Van Krugten on that BB64 machine. He's been supported by Bo Benschneider in the Grand Prix classes, so he's been able to get a lot of really good knowledge from Benschneider, and that's helped him in his development.
And Herlich had a fantastic run there going into turn 20. We saw Moore take a very defensive line, but Herlich had already gone past him as we come through the final corner. Maybe more thinking about that slipstream advantage you can get on the start-finish straight. We've got a Valentino in first position. We've got a Rossi in second as they come through the start-finish straight, and Moore slips right all the way past ahead of Valentino Herlich, and Van Krugten does too to move up into second position. The positions changing as they always do in the slipstream here at the Autodrom Most. 8 laps to go for these Northern Talent Cup riders.
Yeah, you can see for them all now, just trying to make sure that they're able to snake their way through turns 1 and 2. Interestingly, Justin Schneider on the number 20 at the back of this group in 8th position. He's the fastest rider on the racetrack right now, so he's trying to make sure he's able to make some progress. Schneider, a lot of experience, comes into this weekend 3rd in the championship, so doesn't want to give up too many points with only a handful of rounds left in the season.
He's just moved up to 7th there as the riders continue through this second sector of the track. We've got about 9 riders within 1 second, 10 riders with Loris Veneran closing out that top 10, just around a second behind. But so many riders still able to fight for the podium positions and the win. Anything can change in these sort of conditions. Anything can change with the advantages that these bikes can give you, especially down the long start-finish straight. We're looking at Kevin Farkas. He's making swift progress here through the field. 2nd in the championship. He's 4th now, right now in this race, and trying to catch Moore in the lead of this race, but Moore is sticking firm here as we go through the 3rd sector. It was the final sector where we saw the other riders really move past him and see what kind of line that the number 92 can take down.
Yeah, and I think for the 28 of Farkas, really important for him to be able to be strong here at the end of this lap as well. Make sure he's able to stay with the 95 of Schmidt, maybe get through, because we know Schmidt on that 95 machine has to take a ride-through penalty in the opening laps, so you can imagine that he's going to take that probably in about 2 laps' time. So for a lot of these riders, it's about trying to make sure that they can clear him nice and easily and stay in this lead group. But I think especially for the likes of Farkas in the 28, Schneider on the 20th, they don't want to give up too much ground to Rossi Moore, our race leader, because he's the championship leader, and they want to make sure that they're able to take some points out of him.
And he's lost that ground already. Rossi Moore is going to stick to the inside and try to deny the progress of Farkas. Oh, we've got a crash behind.
Is that Schneider?
No,
it's 29 that's gone down. It's Novotny.
Our local rider here. He's started 4th on the grid, so such a shame for Philip Novotny. It was the best we've seen him all season fighting in that front group. But meanwhile, while we're seeing that, Kevin Farkas has moved into the lead at turn 1 and the 2nd position in the championship from 9th on the grid. He's ahead of Rossi Moore. We've seen these two all season long have several battles across different tracks, and the rivalry is set to renew itself here now.
Yeah, and Rossi Moore on that 92 knows that it's his chief rival in the championship that he's up against at the front of the field. The number 20 of Schneider was involved in this incident as well. He dropped for him. It looked like 3rd all the way down to the back of the group in 12th. So it's worth keeping an eye on the 20 and the 29 if we get a replay of that incident into turn 1. But that's a big shame for Novotny.
You see Van Krugten trying to get up on the inside of Rossi Moore. Van Krugten, who we've seen on the front row of the grid so many times this season, but hasn't had a podium to his name so far. And we see Moore try barge elbows with Kevin Farkas, but Farkas slices right in front of him. Speaking of Van Krugten, no podium so far this season. He's 3rd right now. Best position possible to try and make a podium, or even go one further with the way these two are battling together.
Yeah, and I think when you look at Farkas, you can see a rider that's clearly looked at the Superbike race in Top Rack Razgatlioglu earlier today. He's trying to make sure that when there's moves to be made, he's able to get down the inside. Good riding from the 28 to hit the front. And Rossi Moore just doing what he can to stay in this leading group. In the Talent Cup race, if this is your first time watching any of these Talent Cup races, it really is important to be able to make sure that you stay at the front of the group and that you don't lose too much ground at any stage.
We've lost Loris Deckers and our number 41, and we've also lost Frelson, the number 42. That's at turn 15 in the 3rd sector of the track, the fast right-hander. So we'll try and get an update from them as soon as we can. Yeah,
they were a lot further down the field. Schneider's come into the pits as well. 3rd in the championship. He's not going to score any points today, and he's going to give up a lot of ground to Farkas and to Rossi Moore, 2 race leaders and the 2 riders in front of him in the championship standings.
Such a shame for Schneider coming off that win at Assen. He'll lose ground in the championship standings to the riders behind him. He's safe in 3rd position with the riders behind him more or less 28, 29 points behind. But shame because he was really approaching, he's coming into good form coming into this Moss round. Meanwhile, it's more. Valentino Herrlich has moved into 2nd position. The group is starting to widen out, so that's a good news for Moore, Herrlich and Farkas. They're our front 3 right now and trying to open a gap, but the more you fight in these sort of conditions, the better it is for the riders behind to try and close it.
Yeah, if you're able to fight without costing time, you can use the slipstream to your advantage, but you can see at this stage the 77 of Veneman doing his best to latch onto the slipstream and close back up onto this leading trio, and it does look like they've been able to catch them once again. That's the challenge in any of these Talent Cup races. If you can get to the front, can you break away? And more often than not, it's easier said than done.
Basically 11 riders right now in 1 second going down to Kernan, the number 15. We're just getting a message on our timing screens. The number 19, Reo Olofsson, has crashed out of this race, the Dutch rider, so a shame for him. As we see Dustin Schneider, our 3rd in the championship in pit lane, of course, after that coming together that we saw on the start-finish straight, having to retire from this race.
Yeah, that's Olofsson out of this race, and our 3 crashers have all been from further down the order outside of the points, it looks like, and at the front of the field, though, this leading group, that's the opening 11 riders on the timing screen, and there are pretty much 11 riders abreast on the run into turn 1, and it looks like it's the 44 of Varga that has hit the front.
That's excellent from Varga. He came into form quite well at the last race in Assen, and now he moves up into the lead of this race. He was 12th on the grid, so just a sign of how easily things can change in this Northern Talent Cup. As long as you start in those first 3-4 rows of the grid, you can really fight for the podium positions right now, and he's defending that, taking the inside line against Farkas and Veneman coming hot behind. Rossi Moore is now pushed back to 4th.
Yeah, and we know that Schmidt on the 95 needs to take his needs to take his ride through penalty. He's at the back of this group in about 10th position. Now he needs to take that penalty on this lap.
Exactly, so we'll see Schmidt drop down our timing screen as we come across turns 20 and 21 next time around. Meanwhile, Farkas slides his way down the inside of Varga to take 1st position. These riders all battling together with 4 laps to go. There's still a long time in this race for some of the riders further back at the back of this group to make progress and fight for the podium positions.
Yeah, we're running out of time though, with only 3 laps to go at the end of this one, and the good thing for these Northern Talent Cup riders is there are overtaking opportunities. Turn 1 is the prime one, but we're also coming up to the last big overtaking opportunity in the lap. Into the penultimate corner, you can get down the inside, you use the slipstream and make the move. And the riders in this group are all going to know that now is the time you have to start hitting to the front of this group. You're coming up towards the end of 2/3 race distance, so you've got to make sure that you're always in a position to attack from this point on.
I tell you what, I think Farkas has heard that message, because he has opened a small gap, but that will close down now with the super slipstreams down the start-finish straight of the Autodrom Moss. It's a very long way down into turn 1, and that lead has been eaten up already. Schmidt has gone into pit lane, as we saw at the back of our screen, for his ride through, and it's going to be Farkas who remains in the lead. He has defended it well, but that gap has been cut down once again. So 3 laps to go in Northern Talent Cup.
I have to say, it's hard not to like the look of Kevin Farkas at the front of the field on the 28. Every time he's been able to get to the front of the field, he looks nice and assured. And the 15-year-old, he's making a pretty good case for the fact that he might be able to close down the advantage that Rossi Moore has coming into this weekend. 31 points was the advantage. As it is, though, Rossi Moore down in 5th position. He's giving up quite a few points to Farkas at this stage. Farkas on the 28 looks really strong right now, 2.5 laps to go.
We saw Maximus Schmidt come out of pit lane. He's moved out of the point scoring positions altogether, down in 19th. So a shame for him, but he's shown strong pace in this race to remain with the leading group and will be an asset for the race tomorrow, race 2 of the Northern Talent Cup. Meanwhile, Farkas remains in the lead, and now we've got the likes of Farga and Herrlich battling there for that 2nd position. Rossi Moore stuck to the back of Loris Venom, and he does drive down the inside coming into turn 15. That is one of the overtaken hotspots, the main overtaken hotspots here at this Autodrom Moss. It's 3 laps to go, though, and it's time for Moore to act if he's going to catch his rival.
Yeah, 2 laps and 2 corners to go, so if anyone wants to catch Farkas, they've got to really get on it right now. And for Rossi Moore in the 92, he is trying to pick off a few riders here and there, but he also has to defend. The 77 of Veneman looks pretty dangerous at this stage of the race.
All our riders right now riding in the 1:48. It's about 2 seconds slower than what we had in free practice, so still tentative conditions for some of these riders, but it's Farkas who leads as we have 2 laps to go here at the Autodrom Moss. He had a half a second lead coming across the time zone for the 2nd and 3rd sectors, but again, we're seeing that cut down again as Moore slides down the inside, tries to get 2 in one go. He only gets number 44 Varga, but he does move into a podium position. Now
he's going to pick off another spot, though, to get down the inside there, the number 10 of Herrlich. So our top 2 in the championship are 1st and 2nd in this race in reverse order for championship standings. But for Rossi Moore in the 92, really important to keep himself up there in 2nd spot. If you're going to get beaten by your championship rival, you only want to give up 5 points to him.
Tell you who we haven't spoken much about is Lennox Palmer, the number 48. He's side 15th on the grid, and he's been proven to be very adept in these sort of mixed conditions. He's moved up to 7th, and he's one we haven't seen very much of, but very much a contender for the podium positions.
Yeah, that's
now.
That's a good shout. The number 48 of Lennox, race winner already this season, and now just gradually moving himself up into podium contention here with a lap and a half to go.
Number 28, Farkas, opening that gap. It's still half a second, so he's keeping it quite stable with the likes of Moore behind him. Moore is doing everything he can to try and close that gap. It's very difficult in some of these parts of the circuit, but actually the number 92 has closed that right now to 0.2 of a second. So an excellent penultimate lap so far from the number 92, our championship leader, Rossi Moore. Yeah,
Moore pulled back a half a second in Sector 3, so he really is closing up on Farkas. He's going to pick up the slipstream now as well. That's going to work to his advantage. Maybe he'll try and make a move into turn 1, or else he might try and be patient and leave it until this point in a lap's time.
As we'll see right now on this start-finish straight, it's the penultimate lap. It's very easy to be able to overtake him with the slipstream. The checkered flag will come out right about this point. So as you can see, you can make a move coming out of the final corner if you are behind. We've got 3 abreast coming into the final lap here, and it's Farkas who moves ahead, but actually Ehrlich moves ahead and into the inside for both of them. Who will be the hardest breaker into turn 1? And it's Rossi Moore, our championship leader, with Farkas behind 28, our top 2 in the championship, leading this race and going into the final lap for what could be a battle for the ages.
Yeah, the American-born Moore looks really good on the brakes, but you can see there the 28 is able to use that toe to get through and get himself back to the front of the field. The Herrlich on that number 10 machine, he looks pretty handy at this stage. And then the 44 of Varga, just keeping the watching breed, hasn't been close enough to try and make a move. But if the top three guys start to fight with one another even more, then Varga is going to be right there to be able to pick up the pieces.
And we saw at Assen that Varga is not afraid to make a move at the final lap, even if it is a championship leader that we have behind. We're going into our second half of the lap. What, Steve, will be the main overtaking point for these riders right now?
Turn 20, the penultimate corner. That's where you're going to see the moves. They're going to use the slipstream from the exit of turn 15 and 16 to try and set yourself up in a position to attack into that last corner.
So Moore slides down the inside. He retakes the lead of this race. We've got a couple of riders moving out to the outside all over the place. Two of them going across turn 17, turn 16, turn 17. We've got battles further behind the field. And as we come now into turn 20, as Steve mentioned, our main overtaken spot, and it's going to be Ehrlich, it's going to be Moore, and it's going to be Farkas just behind, just a bit too far away. Moore can't move up the inside. Varga tried to move up the inside of Farkas for third position. It's going to be a slipstream city down into the checkered flag. This is the final corner of the race. It's Ehrlich in first position. Moore sticks right behind him in the slipstream. Can he make it ahead before we meet the checkered flag? Rossi Moore is going to be ahead despite half a bike's length, but Rossi Moore, our championship leader, takes his 5th win of the campaign, bounces back in brilliant fashion from his crash at Assen and extends his championship lead with Ehrlich in second position and Kevin Farkas completing our top 3 in a fantastic finish here in race 1.
Yeah, Rossi Moore bangs his bars in delight there and bangs the tank in delight, and we saw the opposite for Ehrlich on the number 10 machine. He was frustrated when they came across the line. He knew he'd been beaten to the line and been slipstreamed by Rossi Moore. As it is, a 5th win of the season for Moore. He timed this one to perfection. I thought when he made the move earlier in the lap that he had gone a little bit too early. As it was, he was able to claim this win by 0.03 of a second. Really good effort by him. But when he made the move into turn 15, we saw him lose the front ever so slightly and just about able to collect that. Didn't lose the spot, but I thought that might have been the momentum that Ehrlich needed to be able to take this win. As it was, Ehrlich did everything he could, and Rossi Moore took the win.
Well, Ehrlich might be frustrated, losing out by 32 thousandths of the second, but it is his first podium this campaign. The German rider, he came back from injury at the Sachsenring. He had an injury in round 1, race 1, turn 1 of the season, came back 2 rounds later for a fifth position finish, and now we can see that potential come to fruition here with second position. He's been fantastic all race. We're just seeing Dustin Schneider cross the finish line. He, of course, was caught up in an incident at turn 1, just coming into turn 1. He had to come into pit lane. So good to see him finishing the race and getting some more experience under his belt, though he does look frustrated on that number 20 machine. Yeah,
Schneider, he's 3rd in the standings, 70 points behind Rossi Moore with 5 races to go. So his chances of being the Northern Talent Cup winner this year look like they're pretty much a long shot at this stage. As it is, this man, Farkas, is the nearest challenger to Rossi Moore. It's still 40 points, though, is the margin. And that makes it very difficult now for Farkas at this stage of the season. We've got 2 more rounds after Moss. We've got 5 races, 125 points up for grabs, but you need to make sure that you're able to take advantage of any misfortune that comes Moore's way, and then you have to be perfect as well.
And actually, Steve, on our timing screens, we haven't got an official confirmation so far. The results are under review, but Farkas has just moved up to second. We're seeing it right now on the left-hand side of your screen. Farkas moving up to second position, and we've just got the confirmation right now. So the number 10, Ehrlich, penalised to drop 1 position, exceeding track limits on the final lap. It's Moore, Farkas, our top 2.
I think that might have been going into turn 1 that happened as well. We saw him pushed out onto the green, and we'll wait and see if we get a replay of exactly what caused it. But that might have been it for Ehrlich, and a little bit of misfortune for him. But he rode a great race, and as it is, Farkas will be pretty pleased to only give up 5 points instead of 9. 36 points is going to be the margin in the championship standings now.
Well, that's a right shame for the number 10. He still gets his first podium of the season, but after fighting for a potential first win right until the start-finish straight and checkered flag, he sees himself drop down to 3rd position. These riders will be waiting there just for the final confirmation of the results. The results still are provisional. They'll just be stopped there before being moved into Park Fermé and the podium, just to make sure there aren't any other changes up and down the field.
Yeah, and for the podium spots, hopefully they're decided now, and for Rossi Moore and Farkas, a 1-2 in the championship standings, 1-2 in this race, and another really strong performance from Moore, and that's why he's a rider that's been of a lot of interest to a lot of people across the different paddocks.
It's an excellent job there by Rossi Moore and by Kevin Farkas as well. He started 9th on the grid, just behind Moore actually on the start grid. Moore was 6th, Farkas 9th, and just to move into 2nd position with that penalty for Herrlich, it does mean that the championship difference now is 36 points, so somewhat damage limitation for what could have been for the number 28. He'll be coming into tomorrow with a chance to close that gap even further. And from what we saw at Assen, it can happen, mistakes can happen. It is not an unassailable lead.
Yeah, there's nothing you can take for granted in the Talent Cup Championships, but certainly for Rossi Moore, he's had his misfortune in Assen. Every other race he's been on the podium, and it's that kind of consistency that you need if you want to win any of these Talent Cups.
There's a confirmation on the bottom of your screen of that penalty for Valentino Herrlich, dropping 1 position due to exceeding track limits on the final lap, but he still remains on the podium, his first of the campaign. Quick shout out to a few of the riders further down the grid. We have Loris Veneman on the number 77 bike. He set his personal best lap time at the end of that on that final lap, so a good job for the number 77. With Thibaut Varg on the number 44 bike, completing the top 5. We were talking about him as a potential podium rider. He seemed in a position to attack in those final stages, but dropping out a bit in the final few seconds. So just waiting for our riders to be taken to the podium here. First time with the World Superbike paddock for all these riders. The podium right is up on the top of our Parc Fermé, and we see there, well, I'm not entirely sure what Ken Vargas is trying to show us right there on the back of his bike.
He seems pretty proud of it anyway, one way or the other. But for his mascot, he was able to still get 20 points there, and hopefully tomorrow for Farkas, he's able to go one better, because he rode really well in this race as well. He was able to consistently get himself to the front of those groups, but the last lap, it does just tend to become a bit of a battle out there in the Talent Cup races. As it was, he'll have to settle for those 20 points. And same for Herrlich as well. And he seems pretty relaxed about that now, able to still come away with the podium. This is going to be it for Herrlich now. On the left of the shot, you're going to see him go onto the green paint on the last lap. And unfortunately for him, that's the difference between 2nd and 3rd position.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Steve. It's very small margins with these track limit penalties, but the track limits are set. They do know them in advance, so good to see where that infraction occurred, and at least Herrlich remains on the podium, his first of the campaign, as we've mentioned already.
Yeah, and for Herrlich, still 16 points in the championship standings. So, like you said, Anthony, best result of the season.
So we're going to get a look at our race results here from the first ever Northern Talent Cup race at the Autodrome Moss, and it is a 5th win of the season for Rossi Moore. Excellent job from 6th on the grid, followed by main championship rival Kevin Farkas in 2nd and Valentino Herrlich in 3rd position. Quick look at a couple of the riders further down the grid. We've got Lennox Pomare in 6th position. We talked about him during the race, coming for 15, so excellent job from the Swiss rider coming through. Just a quick look further down the time scales. His younger brother, Levin Pomare, in his rookie season in 18th, and Dustin Schneider closing the grid. He was lapped after coming into pit lane after an incident coming into turn 1 earlier on in the race. So see if he can bounce back in race 2 tomorrow from 8th on the grid. Quick look at the Riders' Championship, and that gap front between Moore and Farkas has increased to 36 points. Schneider now dropping to 70, so shame for the German rider. He's getting caught up by the likes of Veneman, 83 points behind our championship leader, but just 13 behind before entering the top 3. Vince also making progress there on 90 points, and a couple of riders moving up further down, as you can see, especially Valentino Herrlich. Missed the first half of the season, has come back, scored his first podium, and now moving through the championship standings. He's up to 13th now, moving up 3 positions in one go. So I think we might be ready here for our podium ceremony at the Autodrome Moss, our last race of the day here. What has been an incredible day, closed by a really exciting Northern Talent Cup race, as we've had all season long. A really, really heated battle for that win. We're going to start with Valentino Herrlich, number 10, his first podium of the campaign. Kevin Farkas, sporting-like behaviour there, the 2 young riders. at the top of the podium, it is Rossi Moore, the number 92.
Yeah, the 14-year-old Rossi Moore, 5 wins this season, looks really strong. He's certainly a rider that everyone's going to be keeping an eye on from the NTC into next season, depending on where he ends up going. And I think this race once again showed just how strong he is. He's been so consistent all the way through the season, only missed out in the podium in one race after Assen, and other than that, he's been pretty much flawless all the way through, and another race victory.
You see his winner's trophy. He'll be have quite the collection there. Rossi Moore, the number 92 from last season as well, because he picked up 3 wins there and proved to be excellent then. So we're going to hear the Hungarian national anthem now from number 92.
And now please also show your respect for the national anthem of a winning constructor, KTM.
And his national anthem for our constructor, KTM, same constructor for all the bikes on the grid. Well, I think that one very much wasn't in doubt, but still excellent job for the grid here for the Northern Talent Cup. We see our top 3 here. There'll be big celebrations for them, but remember there is another race tomorrow for these young riders, an opportunity for our championship leader to do his first double.
Yeah, and for Rossi Moore, that opportunity, certainly one that he's been waiting for throughout the course of this season. He's ridden so well, and now he'll have the chance tomorrow to do it all again after a really exciting 9-lap race here in the Northern Talent Cup.
So a quick look through our highlights for this race 1 at the Autodrome Moss, and it was an excellent start from our pole sitter Maximus Schmid. But we did get a shortened race after a red flag earlier on in the race after a crash for Matteo Misili, the number 46 rider, as you can see on your screen, crashing out there in the opening lap. We had a red flag, we had a restart, a shortened 9-lap race. And we saw plenty of battling going up right until the final lap, with Rossi Moore, our championship leader, emerging victorious ahead of Kevin Farkas and Valentino Herlich. They'll have a chance to go at it again, all again tomorrow for race 2 of the Northern Talent Cup here at Moss. Just 5 races left this season. It promises to be another tremendous battle between the riders at the front. We'll see you tomorrow, 4:15 local time, from the Autodrome Moss for race 2 of the Northern Talent Cup.